Okay, so I'm going to explain exactly what's going on with these controls. Somebody on Reddit told me that this configuration is completely ridiculous because you forfeit your diagonals, and this just isn't true. The video that I uploaded didn't exactly represent how you would achieve diagonals because, well, I had only been using the configuration for approximately 5 minutes. And the person says that they get very upset about discussions about configurations because he pores over configurations for hours. So clearly he can relate to somebody who's not quite used to a configuration yet, for somebody who spends hours poring over configurations. Alright, well, sarcasm aside for this fucking goofball, this is how it works. So if I go to mouse, uh, the in-game mouse setting is set to 1.0, and the sensitivity for the actual trackpad is balls to the wall. It's completely maxed out. And the friction is set to high so that you don't lose any precision with the trackball decay. So you go as far as the trackball swipe will allow you to go, and then the decay is cut off almost immediately. And this is really good for Twitch style shooters. If it was a more slow paced shooter, then having it set to a lower trackball friction would be fine. But for this configuration, it's set to high. The friction vertical scale, I want to be able to swipe around the horizon as quickly as possible. If I can get a complete 180 out of one swipe, for a Twitch style shooter like this, that would be more than sufficient. So I have the vertical scale all the way up, or the friction vertical scale all the way up, so that the vertical axis has the most amount of friction and the horizontal axis has the least amount of friction. So, and I also have it inverted, because sometimes I like to play with a keyboard and mouse, and I play inverted with the mouse when I'm playing with the keyboard and mouse, but I don't play inverted when I'm playing with the controller. So I have inverted set on in the game, but I also have it set on in the software, so I'm technically not playing inverted on the controller. But I am playing inverted if I'm using keyboard and mouse. So that's just explanation for that. Um, for some reason, the haptics seem lower when you remove the vertical axis, so I had to bump it up to medium in order to feel it. I don't know what's going on there, but that's what happened. So the sensitivity vertical scale for the trackpad completely bottomed out to the left, and that is to remove the vertical axis completely. There is no more vertical axis if you set this all the way to the left. The smoothing, I keep on setting it right there, and it never saves. I was tinkering with it for a while, and I found that the default smoothing setting was the best for this. Minimum movement threshold, I set it to where I normally set it, where it's comfortable with games. And I noticed that I was having a hard time with strafing in circles around enemies. So what I did was I set up an edge spin radius and set up the edge spin speed, and I tinkered with the speed to the point where if I was at an average sort of distance away from an enemy, I could swipe and then hold the edge, and I would spin, and as long as I was holding down the joystick in the opposite direction, I would spin around the enemy, and all I would have to be doing is just holding down the edge of the trackpad, and I found that to be really useful. It's kind of situational, but it's nice to have. And if you set the edge spin radius like this, what ends up happening is that there is a gradient of intensity from the innermost point to the outermost point. So if you swipe and you're halfway to the edge but still within the edge spin radius, you'll actually rotate slower. So if you're very, very careful with this, you can actually get a little bit of variation with the distance you are from your target. So if you're spinning really, really fast, that would be a target that's really, really close to you. If you're spinning really, really slowly, that'd be a target that's further away from you. And you can get that variation by setting the edge spin radius a little bit wider than it is by default, and you can get a lot of variation that way. But this is how the mouse on the right trackpad is configured. Acceleration off as well, I forgot to mention. The mouse for the gyro is really simple. It's set balls to the wall. You can set it to always on, but you have to be very, very careful if you swap to a menu, either your character menu or the game's menu. you have to be very, very careful about how your controller is oriented when you get back into the game if it's set to always on. Because if you go into the menu and then you go back into it with your controller vertical like this and you try to look around, it'll be screwed up. You don't want to do that. So you have to be very, very careful if it's set to always on. I decided I am more comfortable with it always on, but it ended up not being as smooth, and I decided that I just needed to get used to having my thumb on the right trackpad all the time. So I set it to right trackpad touch. So now whenever I'm touching this, the gyro's enabled and I can look up and down. So the way this is set up is that the sensitivity vertical scale is set to approximately 75%. And what this does is it skews down the horizontal scale, the horizontal sensitivity. So I can still look left and right with the gyro. I can still get diagonals with the gyro. But it heavily favors vertical movement. But this actually, I mean, even if I completely floored this to the right side and completely removed the horizontal axis, it wouldn't matter. I would still be able to get diagonals. Because let's talk about something for a second. Say you're in a game and you're using your camera and you're looking at just a wall or a flat texture, right? And you want to look to the corners of this flat texture that your character is looking at, right? Well, you have two axes. You have the vertical axis and you have the horizontal axis, correct? The way the mouse works is it takes information about about the proportion of vertical axis movement to horizontal axis movement. So if you're moving it, say, a little bit more vertical than horizontal, but still going in the right direction, it might send your camera over there. If you're looking more horizontal than vertical, it might send it over there. But if you're looking in the same proportion to vertical and horizontal, it'll send it to the corner, right? It takes that variable information and it just combines them and it sends that information to the game, and then you have a character that looks around. That's how the mouse works. That's how the mouse has always worked for the history of fucking PC gaming and PC input methods in general when it comes to the mouse. So, okay. How does this relate to the configuration that I have, where I only have horizontal here and I have 75% vertical and 25% horizontal on the gyro? Well, think about it. This is handling one axis. This is handling another axis. If I swipe and move the gyro at the same time, holy shit, I get diagonals. Okay. So we'll go into a game and we'll actually show this to you. All right. So this is what I mean. If I swipe left and right with the trackpad, I just get the horizon line. And that's all I really want, because I don't want to make any mistakes and accidentally look up and down. You know, because the trackpad can sometimes be a little weird, especially if you're looking in the opposite direction. The way my thumb works anyway, and I'm sure other people must be like this, a swipe to the right is not the same as a swipe to the left. And the rotation of the trackpad does not always accommodate both swipes from left to right or right to left, right? So I wanted to just be able to look around the horizon, and that's it, with zero mistakes. And I also wanted to be able to aim freely with heavy emphasis on the vertical axis, but still be able to aim on the horizontal axis. But I can still aim even if I'm not using the horizontal axis on the gyro. And I can still aim on diagonals. Oh, look at that. When you put the X and Y axis together in different proportions, you get diagonals. Who would have thought? Oh my god, that is just outrageous. That is stupendous. Look at that. Holy fuck, guys. So it was very awkward to play with the controller on the desk like that. So I'm over here and I've chosen a map that has a decent horde and a decent variety of enemies, but I'm still encountering pretty much the same problem I was encountering before, which is there aren't really a whole hell of a lot of enemies that are necessitating me moving along the vertical axis. Not really. I mean, they're all pretty much at eye level, so I don't even really need to use the gyro a whole hell of a lot. It's just the nature of the game that it very heavily favors just being along, looking around the horizon line. I need that. Give me that sweet, sweet health. Oh, fuck, I accidentally selected the shotgun. That means I'm a scrub, right? Because it has spread, and you don't have to be accurate. Just ignoring the fact that I seem to be doing just fine. The diagonals appear to be working just fine to me. Yeah. I mean, I honestly think the criticism was kind of unfounded, because this is fine. Once you get used to it, I mean, like, I guess there could be a little bit of a learning curve for some people, but like once you get used to it, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. I mean, you just need to do me a kindness. Just kindly get the fuck on my level, and everything will be okay.